streaming and recording. Yours. All right, we'll call this meeting of the Board of Finance to order. It is 7:19 p.m. Because we are doing a hybrid, I'm going to just do a roll call to make sure we've got everyone in attendance. Myself, Tim O'Brien is here. Glenn Frischman is in the room with me, as is Dave Motherway. Mike Fauerbach, are you on?
I am here, yes.
Lynn Young?
I'm here.
Bob Stachin?
I'm here.
Deb Norman?
Here.
And then I know that Jim Sullivan and Jill Sr. are on as well. I think that's what we needed to make sure was here. First order of business is comments from the public. If you are on the WebEx and would like to make a comment, please raise your hand on that, or if you're on the phone, please press *3, and we will take comments from the public at this time. Any comments from the public? None? Okay, no comments from the public. Go to the next. Next item of business is previous minutes. We have minutes from, hang on.
No, I don't think we have. I don't think we have the previous minutes. I uploaded them on the town website, but they weren't in your package, which I apologize for.
Okay. Jill, what was the date on those?
It was October
7th, I think.
Yeah, 5th or 7th. October. No. October 7th.
October 7th. Okay. And they were, I saw a notice about them, so I believe they were circulated. So can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the October 7th meeting? So moved. I got a motion from Glenn Frischman. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second from Deb Norman. Any discussion about the minutes, any additions or corrections?
Tim, I don't know, can I make a request that we maybe defer that one? To be honest, just since it wasn't in the packet, I honestly didn't review it.
That is totally fine with me. So, Mike, are you asking for a motion to table the minutes?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Motion is out there.
Second.
Okay, Lynn second. Glenn withdrew his motion. So Glenn withdrew his motion originally. Then there was a motion and a second, a motion by Mike Fauerbach, a second by Lynn Young to table the minutes of the October 7th meeting until next meeting. All in favor of tabling the minutes, please say aye.
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 If anyone is opposed, please state that you're opposed and state your name. Okay, minutes are tabled until next meeting. Okay, next item on the agenda is new business, additional appropriations. Jim, are we correct that there are still no changes from the last meeting?
That is correct. So it's $40,000 year to date with the amount left of $317,000 before you need to go to a town meeting for an additional appropriation.
Okay, that sounds good. So no action on that. Jim, fiscal, next item in the agenda is fiscal 1920 year-end light item transfers.
Yes, this is just for the departments that ran over their total department budget. This is a transfer of money into those just so we're not violating statute by overexpending the budgets by departmental budgets. So overall, there's...
Right, hang on 1 second, Jim. Hang on 1 second. Can I get a motion to approve the light item transfers that are outlined in the memo that is part of our packet for fiscal 1920 with a total of $7,023.
So moved.
Got a motion from Mr. Frischman and a second from Dave Motherway. Okay, discussion. Jim, can you take over, please?
Yes, this is just to move some money around to departments that overexpended their budgets by a bit during the fiscal year. By statute, we have to move money around to cover those. We can't have departments operating in a deficit. So all told, departments only went over by $7,000. Most departments were actually under budget. So you can see from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 departments there, totaling $7,000. And the departments are self-explanatory. If you look at the Zoning Board of Appeals and Inland Wetlands Commissions, those are the two biggest amounts. $4,000 for Zoning Board and Inland Wetlands Commission of $1,249. That's advertising expense. They're perennially over their budget. I think we've addressed that in 2021, so that shouldn't be happening again this year. Other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward unless any member has a question.
Any members have any questions?
Actually, I do, Tim. What's fire department dispatch mean?
That's the Westerly Dispatch. They dispatch the fire departments. They don't go through the police station. So we pay them. What
do we pay them per call or something?
No, we pay them like $35,000 a year, $32,000 a year, something like that to dispatch for the town of Stonington.
Okay, so how does that go over? Just curious.
Well, it was this is probably before your time, but this was going over ad nauseum 2 years ago, and everybody settled on the plan to have Westerly dispatched for the town. So I can't say any more about it than that.
Okay.
But Jim, I guess the question was, I thought that was an annual fee, not per use fee.
It is, and it's an annual fee. The fee went up by that amount, so over the adopted budget.
Okay. Okay. So that's what happened, was the fee went up. It wasn't a volume-based thing. It was the fee.
No.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the line item transfers as presented, say aye.
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 Any opposed, please state your name and that you're opposed. Okay, motion unanimously carries. All right, next item on the agenda is review of the 1920 general fund operating results. Jim, you want to take this?
Sure. Again, it's pretty self-explanatory. Our revenues, our expenditures for the year exceeded revenues by $667,000. So we have a decrease for over the year over year. That at first blush, that sounds like a negative thing, but considering we budgeted use of fund balance of, I don't know, 3.2 million, something like that, maybe 3.5 million. I forget. I don't have the exact number in front of me. Those are very, very, very good results. Revenues were higher than expected, and many departments came in under budget as well. And then the other figures there just show out where we're going to end up. Fund balance as of June 30. So we know what we're dealing with when we go into the budgeting session for 21-22. Any questions?
Any questions for the members?
I have one. Is the money that we spent on the Stillman Avenue Mill in that too?
Cleaning up?
Yeah.
No, that was a prior year's budget.
Okay.
That was 18-19.
Really? It was that long ago? Time is flying.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, some of the work took place during this fiscal year, during 1920, but the money was encumbered from the prior year's budget, from 18-19's budget.
Okay.
Other questions?
we're looking at COVID-19 aid under the CARES Act. When will that come in, Jim?
We've already gotten for the Board of Ed side, we've already gotten, I think, $80,000 out of their $280,000 grant. And from the town side, I was on the phone with FEMA today. They're still reviewing. We haven't even gotten our determination letter yet. So I wouldn't even hazard a guess when the town's going to see its money.
180. So we're looking for another 200K for the Board of Ed.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it'll be by the end of December, I believe. I mean, that's when the grant is good through, I believe. So they'll have expended what they need to expend by then, and then the money should probably come rolling in January or February. I would expect.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Jim, do you know how much the town put in for?
We put in for, I think, 200, maybe $280,000. But some of that was
So the same number as the Board of Ed?
roughly.
Okay.
But I will say this: on the town side, some of the money was also Board of Ed expenditures that they didn't submit through a different program that we're trying to claim through FEMA. But the town submitted, for our part, we submitted about $25,000, and so we should be getting almost all of that, or about 21,000 of that, just from the town. That's not including with the Board of Ed's stuff we submitted on behalf of the Board of Ed. So that stuff is still up in the air.
Right, but you're saying the Board of Ed requested 280K, and you're saying did the town also request 280K?
Yes, thereabouts. Yeah. But regardless of what FEMA approves there's the other program, the CRF program, which what FEMA doesn't approve, doesn't reimburse. We've submitted for through another program that's actually, it's the money that went to the state. So we're submitting it to the state. It's federal money, but will be run through the OPM.
Are we anticipating any additional costs if there's another surge, and are we ready to submit requests through those programs a second time? Is that how that would work?
Well, we've had, yes. The first claim, the first submission we had was for March 1st through June 30th. And so the town, we've from July 1 through today, we've had various other expenses, COVID related, and we haven't put in for those. We won't have to do that till the end of December. We'll put in for that money in January. But I think this is a big but. A lot of this stuff is going to be denied. When we submitted all this, even FEMA had no idea what they were going to be approving.
Right.
So a lot of this stuff is as they refined their process in determining what is allowable, a lot of stuff is going to be disallowed. So I don't know what at the end of the day, I don't know how much of we're really truly going to get from FEMA, because FEMA's not paying for like all the IT stuff that we did. All they're paying for is, which I just found out today, they're only paying for emergency operations to help deal with COVID. They're not reimbursing you for measures taken to avoid COVID. So if you buy a computer for somebody so they can work at home to avoid going into a building full of sick people, you're not going to cover that. All they're covering is expenditures for emergency operation center and people like that providing emergency services. That's all that FEMA is covering. All the other costs that I just mentioned, hopefully most of that will be covered through the CRF program, which is what the money going to the state. And now we're applying to the state to get reimbursed through that way. I know that was a long-winded explanation. I don't know if it made sense or not, but
no, I think it's important. I think we should sort of regularly be talking about those funds, and Glenn, I think it's a good question you brought up as well, talking about those. Because again, if it's a revenue source we don't usually have, so we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of it as much as we can. It sounds like you are, so thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
One other thing I want to make sure I ask people is to make sure to identify yourself, because while some of us are in the room and we can see who's talking, not all of us are. So let's make sure we identify who's talking and then go ahead and ask questions. Does anyone else have any additional questions for Jim about this? No? Okay. Thank you, Jim. Next item of business is review the Board of Ed monthly line item transfers and global budget report. Jim, do you want to give an overview of this? Or?
Well, I will. I mean, I guess this is all we have, I think, is their final year end for 1920. And so I don't know how well it came. What I wrote at the bottom of it came across on the copies in front of you guys, but I think you see that the $596,000 of surplus that we talked about for the Board of Ed for 1920, that's still there. So it's just right on what we expected a month ago. So that money's still available. You know, I know most of you. Pardon?
Sorry, Jim, it's Mike. Can you, yeah, we can't really read your writing that well on the bottom. Can you
Okay.
explain how you got that 596? I see the 563, and then I can't see what the...
Well, there's two reconciling items. That if below that 563 is a prior year encumbrance of $31,000 and another prior year encumbrance for $2,362. That gets you to the 596.05. Those prior year encumbrances were monies that the Board of Ed had encumbered. Well, from a prior year, obviously, they didn't they forgot about it, that they had it encumbered. When they expended it, they showed it as expended in their budget. But when I put it into the town side, I took it out of encumbrances, so it didn't hit expenditure line item. So we had to add back $33,000 to their figure of 563 to get back to the 596. Okay.
Yep, makes sense. Thanks.
This is Lynn. Jim, when do we actually quote unquote get that money back? I mean, I know it's in the general fund anyway, but I mean, when is it released or whatever, or unencumbered or whatever term you want to use back to the town?
It's there now.
Okay. So they committed to that, to giving it back.
I mean, the books are closed.
Okay.
All their expenditures now are coming out of 2021
Okay.
budget.
It typically takes till October to close them?
No, this is, well, yes. In fact, but even now, we're a little behind this year because of dealing with all the FEMA stuff and COVID-19. Okay. So we are a bit behind this year.
Okay.
In fact, I'll prepare you now. We'll probably have to go on extension for the audit. We're not going to have it done by December 31st.
Yeah, nobody is.
Yeah. Other questions about this? No? All right, moving on. Discussion of the health insurance MOU between the Board of Selectmen, Education, and Finance. This was worked on over a number of weeks and months, mostly months, between the town, the Board of Ed, and I, as the Board of Finance, was in there as part of the discussion. This was negotiated before my becoming chair of the Board of Finance, and so I walked in with them having a considerable amount of the nuts and bolts of it done. There were aspects of it, though. If you remember, we had Vin Pacilio go out on leave for a while. There were aspects he had questions about. There were aspects that the town had some questions about. And I will give credit to Dr. Riley and to Danielle and to everyone who worked on this, because it was an effort to get it done. And then we had a Board of Ed chair change in the middle of it. And the new Board of Ed chair, Mr. Tedisco, did a great job of trying to finish this and get us across the finish line with something that the town was very amenable to, as well as that the Board of Ed felt that they were still represented well, and it gave them the discretion they needed, but also pretty much locked in that we will work together. And I think it's a better MOU than we had in the past one, but I don't think it was any less of a lift to get to this point than the last one that took 2 years to get across the finish line there. So I feel, the town feels confident from the human services standpoint of what this represents and how they feel a party to this agreement. And I feel confident only because the town feels confident. And I think this is going to be kind of a living thing that we see how it works, but there are as many commitments as we could get in and as they could get in, that we have a degree of flexibility, but we operate as a combined unit. So I will entertain questions, because I don't think we need a motion ahead of time. We can do questions first, and then afterwards I'll seek a motion to see which way we want to go with this.
Lynn, I got a question. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So who's going? Tim, am I talking?
Lynn,
Yeah, okay. So is this thing better than the previous MOU, which was violated and apparently not enforceable by virtue of the fact that it's insisting upon a 20% excess claim reserve?
It is much better than the prior MOU in that it establishes a desire to have a single actuarial assumption to follow, and that the town now has a direct contact with Brown & Brown, who the town has agreed to use, and has found that direct contact has really eased a lot of the angst that the town was facing. And that there is also an advisory committee to make sure that if there are any issues that come up, there's a certain degree of mediation, which the other one had nothing about it.
Okay, but the other one, the other MOU had a 20% excess reserve because of the stop loss too? Or it had more? The old one?
I cannot.
No, that was the agreement, had an IBNR plus 20%.
Yeah.
It did, okay.
At times the board didn't meet that number.
Yeah, but at times, see, the problem is where you're getting your actuarial assumptions from. And really at the core of the problem was Brown & Brown had one actuarial assumption and Lockton had a second one. So your 20% varied depending on whose assumption you made and followed. This one says we're both going to use the same assumption in that same levels to figure out where you're at. And so your methodology is now uniform throughout the town.
So did we get rid of that $60,000 or $80,000 expense for, the double actuary?
We have reduced that. We have not eliminated it because Brown & Brown did not do everything for the town, although they did most of it. So the additional encumbrance, we have saved money for the town, yes. Not the entirety of it, but because we're asking Brown & Brown to do more, so it's not a we've eliminated
I understand.
one.
But we're not doing it twice. Yeah, but we're no longer doing it twice.
No, we're no longer doing it twice. As we move forward, we may see some of that still in this year's budget. In 2021's budget, we know that that's there. The intent of getting this in place is so that as we go into budget 21-22, we will not have that.
That'll reflect the actual cost.
Correct. Correct.
It's Mike. Can I just confirm, yeah, that the intention is to use the same actuary? And if so, I guess that makes me feel a bit better, just in that I think some of the language maybe so maybe a little softer, but again, if you're using the same actuary, I think it takes care of itself. So is that the intention?
That is correct. That's the exact intention, and I believe there's a section in here that says that, you know, we strive to use the same one. We couldn't lock everything in as strongly, but yes, that is the intent, to use one actuary to determine the IBNR.
Okay, thanks.
That's the value.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if you heard Dave, but he said that's the value, and I agree. That puts us on the same. The books all look the same. So that's
There's no discrepancy from how you looked at it and how we looked at it.
Correct.
One view, and then you.
That's the big benefit.
Yeah.
And then the other big benefit is that we have in the policy and in the thing here that we have to be working together. And if one group does something that the other group either doesn't like or is having a problem or is a lack of communication, there is a advisory group, or there is a committee above the advisory group that will then come in, and it was an odd number intentionally so that we will make a decision, and then it's stipulated right above the purpose on page 1. It's stipulated that all sides have to agree with what the committee comes in and works with the advisory group that has worked on this. They all agree and go forward with that direction. And that was not in the last MOU as well. So there's a method to have a discussion where put everyone, the town and the school, in the same room and have it all flushed out on the table.
So the Board of Ed's autonomy is somewhat limited. They can't turn around and decide they want to go off with, don't want to self-insure or be in the plan or change something else about it or whatever on their own?
All parties' autonomy. So Board of Ed, the towns are kind of linked together in a method that promotes this discussion to happen so that one aspect of this agreement cannot go out on their own without violating it. Now, there's no fiscal penalty if you do that. There is no punitive damage if you do that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it still does require a dialogue and a ability to get along and work together, and that we were not going to get away from.
All right, so it's really just a memorandum of intent, right?
It really is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there, I'm sorry, this is Bob Statchin. Is there documentation, or is there, as far as the concept that the self-funded health benefit program is the most fiscally responsible way, is the cheapest way to do it? Is that analysis been complete? Because there's other program, there's a municipal program through Kevin Lembo's office, and there's a lot of push as far as public options that would allow municipalities to participate as well. I'm just wondering if there's been a review that this self-funded is the most economical way to do it.
So that discussion was had during some of these negotiations. And what I will say is the desire was to then, Brown & Brown has been doing that review for the Board of Ed side of it. For every so many years, they do a review and say, yeah, you probably are better off staying there. Now that the town is also using Brown & Brown, that will also be reviewed again through the working group that's together that comprises both the town and the Board of Ed, and take a look at whether the self-funded is the best option, because there are, like it or not, health insurance has changed a lot over the last number of years. So the intent was to get the MOU together so that we are all talking and agreeing to do everything together, and then have a kind of a overreaching review of, is this still the best policy? And it may be. Or is there something else that Brown & Brown sees that would be somewhere else we'd rather go? and that will be part of that overreaching review. But this was the foundation to have that on, so that we were looking at one actuary, one advisor, one person that was going to be taking a look at the entirety of it, much the way that we did when we got down to the self-insured back however many years ago.
1993.
In 1993. Other questions?
Again, this is Bob Stach, and that flexibility to review, because it does seem somewhat, when you look at the policy statement and the intention, it seems like there's somewhat of a commitment to the self-funded route. And I note that this goes through June 2023. But that's the purpose of this is just that the value of them operating together. So if the Board of Ed makes a decision, it has to be coordinated with the town, seems to be the primary thing, rather than committing to the self-funded mechanism through June 2023.
That is correct. So the primary was that we both act in concert with each other and use the scope of scale that we have when we act as a unit to that leverage to whether the self-funded is still the best, which as of a couple of years ago, Brown & Brown felt it was still the best and most economical. But this is the foundation, not that it locks us into being self-funded. It actually was tried to be worded so that it gave flexibility as long as it is a joint decision change not a sole decision.
This is David Motherway. I just have a question about the duration. It talks about that both parties have to notify in writing that they want to have it renewed, and that's June 30th of 2023. Whose calendar's on, and how does that, I mean?
That is, for right now, that is on Gary Shettles and the Director of Administrative Services for the town.
Okay.
So they're the ones who are tracking it, because right now, the Director of Finance for the Board of Ed is the one who is overseeing this on their side. Those are the two whose calendars it's on.
Curious.
Yep.
Good.
Yep. Other questions? All right, can I get a motion to approve and endorse the health insurance MOU between the Board of Selectmen, Education, and Finance?
I will make that motion and authorize the chairman to sign on the Board of Finance's behalf.
Second.
So I got a motion from Mr. Frischman, a second from Mr. Motherway. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please state your name and that you're opposed. Hearing none, that unanimously passes. We have endorsed the MOU. Thank you, everyone. Correspondence, I have not seen anything. Jim, do you have anything? Or
No correspondence from my end. Jill, anything?
Nope, I don't have anything.
Okay. Liaison report, SIP liaison, Lynn.
I don't really have too much to say, except that it was going along pretty well. Had the usual stuff in there that, wasn't going to happen. The new Vince Pacilio has some ideas about streamlining the process potentially that we might see that might make it easier for us to go through during the budget cycle. The only thing that did take me aback a little bit, but I chose to ignore, was some of the stuff that came from the Board of Ed guys when they were there, but I ignored it because I don't think the actual Board of Ed saw it or had any opinion on it. But otherwise, it'll be like Groundhog Day.
All right. Any questions? All right. We'll move right on to WPCA. Lynn again.
Yeah, so we are trying to we're trying to get a handle on something that might be going on with our billing in Mystic. So we've been working on that now for quite a while, and we've narrowed down a problem to Mystic that we might not be billing adequately for the inflows coming in to the system on a pretty large scale. So that's one thing. Second thing is we're very grateful to have the bond money because, all summer long things continued to break at their usual rate, and we had the money to fix it and to look forward. And that's really about it. We've had a lot of personnel changes there, which are something of an issue. But we still have a moratorium, an informal moratorium going on for development in Mystic. So there's developers lining up now who are getting jammed up by that. So it's good that we have the money in hand to, hopefully do that diversion sooner than later.
Any idea when when you're gonna be starting construction on the necessary physical portion of the diversion?
I think that, so I would say realistically, the absolute earliest that, we could, most of the infrastructure, don't forget, it's in the ground. So the absolute earliest that we might be able to divert that flow would be probably May of 2021. And that was the original estimate pre-pandemic. But I can tell you the difficulty for many of these things are getting parts now. Right. So I don't personally think it's going to be spring of 2021, probably be the end of the summer, something like that. So the construction part of it, there's a lot of pumps and a lot of valves and a lot of things like that we have to change. So we're on it and, we're getting closer, but it's also kind of an important thing for us to get to the bottom of this dislocation between the billing and the influence. So, we're devoting time to that too.
Other questions? No? All right, thank you, Lynn. Board of Ed liaison report.
I'm scheduling a meeting with Chairman Disco, and at this time I don't have any report.
All right, I will say that I've talked to Chairman Tedisco off and on as this has gone on, and he's tried to keep me a lot up to date about what their costs may be for the pandemic, but every week is a new week, and every week is either a better week or a worse week, depending on what happens. So things are very fluid. They're working diligently to mitigate costs, but they don't know everything right now, but they're doing a good job. I will say that they're doing a good job, and they're trying to keep us as informed as they can, but it's a very moving target. One week it looks like they're going to overrun by a large amount, and then they find a way to do it better and cheaper, and so that number gets lower. So he doesn't want to scare anybody, but he doesn't want to also hold anything back. So he's been good at communicating. I haven't sent it out to you because everything changes so quickly that it's not, I don't want to scare you either, but they are encumbering costs. They're working to mitigate them and working to get as much as they can from the CARES Act and from the state, but they will be coming back needing additional help, and it's just a question of what level. So that's the minimum. So, all right. Do we have any unscheduled business? Being that we're in
Tim, it's Mike.
Yep.
Sorry, Tim, it's Mike. Yeah, just a minor thing, but maybe it's more for Jill than for you. Just on the agenda, can we just add like a final bullet that says like other liaison reports? I know we've got these 3 called out specifically because they tend to be bigger items and important items that we want to touch in on each meeting. But there's other stuff going on with police, highway, town. So if we can just maybe I wouldn't want someone to think that we don't cover some of the other groups if need be.
Yep, that's not a problem. We can make sure it's on there.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Given that, does anyone have any other liaison reports?
I don't have anything to add, but perhaps for the next.
Mike, do you have any other liaison report? All right, any other unscheduled business?
Not for me.
Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
So moved.
I got a motion from Dave first and a second from Glenn. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and thanks for the dry run. This worked well. Appreciate it, Roger.
Thank you, Roger.
Thanks, Roger.
Hey, Tim. Tim?